3, 2, 1, go.
Hello. This is Ignacy Portal Games.
And this is the podfather of gaming, Stephen Bonacore. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 224. And we're recording it on January 19th, 2022. Board Games Insider is a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. And the Dice Tower Kickstarter for 2022 is currently running. And if they get to the $310,000 stretch goal, Tom Vassell will do a Bonacore is Wrong video, which, by the way, he didn't even ask to use my name. He just put it in there. So we all need to show him that really Tom is wrong when he does a Bonacore is Wrong video. And I'm sure that I'll be on this video with him. So please go over and support the Dice Tower Kickstarter for 2022, which is currently running. It'll still be running when you hear this. Seriously, guys, I mean, while they've already made their goal, now they've got some really great stretch goals, like there'll be an Essen for all the European listeners. That'll be a great one. They just made the one where they can be at PAX. So go over there and support it. Even if you can give them $5, $10, you can get some cool stuff too, but that's not the important thing, right? The important thing is if you give them some money, they can continue to create great content for all of us and be a really great force in board game media. So check them out. And this is the time that I'm being serious about Tom. Check him out and let him do the great work that he's been doing.
I have a very short Slavic message. Stephen is right.
And Bonacore is actually right.
I was trying to follow this story. Bonacore is wrong. Tom Vassell is right. But the bottom line, guys, support the people that you love, that you use their content, that you appreciate all the live streams and the quiz shows and reviews. We love them all. They provide great content. So you can drop $5 or $10 on different pledge levels and support them. Please do.
Yeah, excellent. Tell us what's happening over at Portal Games, Ignacy.
Oh, things are happening. Our news from Monday was that we are releasing 51st State Ultimate Edition. And by Ultimate, we mean amazing box that holds the base game and 6 expansions. Absolutely crazy, all the 6 expansions. This is, Stephen probably can confirm, quite a part of the industry standard these days, that the older games get republished already with existing expansions, and players absolutely love them because they can catch up. They heard about this great game Alhambra. They heard about this great game Shogun. They heard about these older titles, and now is a way for them to, on crowdfunding, to grab the base game and all the expansions. So we went the same road. Instead of just a regular reprint, just create a one big ultimate box. 51st State is one of my first games that was getting some hype and that got some awards, Golden Geek nomination. It all started Imperial Settlers family, so it is a great older title. And now with this Ultimate Edition, we are using GameFound campaign to bring this beautiful production into the life. So you can check portalgamesus.com, visit our page and learn more about this amazing edition. And you have a couple of weeks to prepare for this campaign. So this is one of the news. 51st State getting back in print in a few months. So this is one thing. The other thing is the news that was announced 60 minutes ago, just before we start recording the podcast. And that is Greg Polewka. As up till today, I was calling my right hand. Now he's officially COO of the Portal Games. Great nomination, and he will be now running Portal Games Poland. I'm very proud of this big change in the whole management for the company. I will have now a chance to work much more on development or design, or working with the young designers on growing our development team, while Greg Polewka will be technically running the whole operation, the whole company. So at this point, I have 2 amazing people running Portal Games: Lugot Finowski, Director of Operations in USA, and Greg Polewka, Chief Operation Officer here in Poland. I'm very, I would say, blessed with such a talented and trusted people that can run my businesses and let me do my best, that is designing games. So this was happening at Portal Games. for pre-orders and street dates. Gutenberg on pre-order, and it is going strong. It is going amazing. I want to thank all of you who visited portalgamesus.com and pre-ordered the game, because over this 1 week since the announcement, we have over 200 pre-orders in our web store. It is absolutely insane. Thank you so much, and we are very, very happy. It's a great deal for you, because you have a free shipping, you have a shipping before the release, and you have 2 additional characters as a promo. So earlier, cheaper, and with the bonuses. And that's why so many of you decided to pre-order from us. I appreciate that. And the news from the HQ, what's happening in the HQ. This Saturday, we have PortalCon. So you can imagine everyone is running like crazy, preparing stuff. For this week, we decided for asking all our employees to work from the home office, just in case there is no stupid Omicron in the office, because that would be a fatal blow for the PortalCon. You can imagine one Omicron in the office, and suddenly we have to cancel the whole convention, because the whole company will be on a quarantine. So this week we are working all in the home office mode. I came here to office today, but basically empty. Office is empty, and everybody's waiting for PortalCon for Saturday. We will announce a dozen titles for Polish market, and we will announce one big title for American market.
Dozen titles you're going to be announcing?
12.
That's amazing. I mean, this is going to be so sort of the full year's title announcement.
Yes. So yes.
Cool.
So the keynotes on the scene with the trailers, animations, and we are announcing 12 games exclusive for Polish market, and we will announce one more that is worldwide. So this is for Polish market and English market. So altogether, our fans in Poland will be super, super excited seeing all the keynotes and all the big licenses, big hits that we are bringing to Poland for Polish market. I will discuss them in more detail next week. So things are busy. I'm no longer in operation here in Poland. I'm now only in the development department. We have amazing 51st State Ultimate Edition. Things are happening. This is the beginning of the year with Gutenberg and 51st State Ultimate Edition and upcoming things. Great energy at the beginning of the year, so I'm very, very proud. How's doing the renovation?
How is retirement and renovation stuff? Well, before we get to that, I've got a big gaming kind of announcement that I'm going to make, but I'm going to make it at the end of the show in our little special thing there. So, because normally I talk about gaming first, but we'll go now on the remodeling portion and the renovation things that's going on here. We just talked about it 3 days ago, basically, so we've had to schedule these podcasts kind of close to each other. I mean, even though you guys see it, so there's no extra news, but I'm going to mention that I found out yesterday that my game table, which is part of my remodeling, right? I had a perfectly good game table, but since it didn't match the aesthetics of the rest of the house and the color and this and that, I sold it, and we're bringing in a new game table. So I'm unbelievably excited. I'm actually going to do like a video on this thing because it's gorgeous. It's from Game Theory Tables. I cannot wait, because as soon as it's in there, it kind of like just really makes the entire place really done. There's a couple of other things we're adding in, but it really makes it done. So I'm going to do a video, do a little promotion for these guys, not getting paid, no paid promotion, just to show it all off. And of course, I got all the accessories for it and everything like that. It's stunning. So that's the big thing that's happening here. I'm going to go down to my trips now. Tomorrow, so by the time you hear this, it would have already happened. I'm going down to Dice Tower headquarters to see Tom and gang for their Kickstarter. They're doing some extra programming and invited me to come down. I'm going to be doing a Q&A, not a Q&A, sorry. First, I'm going to be doing a top 10 games that deserve a reprint. Now, that's interesting, I think.
Very interesting.
Right, because first of all, I did lots of reprints back in the day, right? Games that, I brought back. I sort of made my company name based on that early on, and then we evolved. And of course, Z-Man Games under Zeb was doing it, and Fantasy Flight was doing it. And kind of that well almost seemed to run dry, because it's hard then, right? Everything's been done, and there's so many new games. Why would you go back to the well? So when Tom asked me to do it, I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be so hard to do this. I then just looked at my shelf, all my games. I just went down. I'm like, oh, you can't get this game anymore. This one needs a rebuild. You can't can't get this one, or this one would be better if it had better components. So I just went down and I easily got a top 10 games deserving of reprint. So you'll be able to see that on the Dice Tower channel. You can watch it live tomorrow, but by the time you hear this, that'll be gone. So you can watch the replay of that on the channel. Games deserving a reprint with Tom, myself, and Jason Levine. Following that, we're going to do a Dice Tower Cruise Q&A. Dice Tower Cruise is coming up at the middle of February, and I'm still excited about it. Hopefully the cruise runs. We're going to make sure that we stay safe on that cruise. So we'll be doing a Q&A. Tom and Jason will be talking about, like how to, things to pack and stuff. And I'll be talking about the best bars on the ship to go to and things like that. So that's my bag, how to have a really fun time as an adult on a cruise. So I can't wait to be doing that with them. And then the next trips, the convention season is sort of starting again, coming up right after the cruise. A few weeks later, 2 weeks later, we have Dice Tower West in Vegas, Las Vegas, first week in March. And I'm so excited about going there again. Ignacy knows how much I love Las Vegas. That is the end of what I'm doing. Let's get over to the news and the event deck. So the first thing we have is very interesting news showing the importance of the geek culture in our lives. And in this case, the Wizards of the Coast president has been promoted to CEO of Hasbro. Now, as we talk about all the time, Wizards of the Coast is part of Hasbro. So they own hobby gaming. They own the largest role-playing game, right? They own the largest CCG, and the second one, I think Pokemon's probably second one. So they own all this geek stuff, yet they don't do many board games. But that section has become so profitable that Chris Cox has become the CEO of Hasbro starting February 25th. And the announcement was that Wizards of the Coast president Chris Cox has been appointed chief executive officer of parent Hasbro and will join the board of directors, the company announced after the close on Wednesday. Cox will take his new position on February 25th, replacing interim CEO Rich Stoddard, who was appointed after the October death of longtime Hasbro CEO Brian Goldner, which we reported on. Stoddard will become chairman of the board. Somebody's apparently been paying attention to WotC's growth and profitability, have been dominating Hasbro's numbers. In Q1 2021, the WotC segment accounted for 75% of Hasbro's total profits. The video game background of Cox, who took over at WotC from Greg Leeds in 2016, may have also been appealing to the board, which is looking to expand exploitation of its properties in gaming and entertainment. Phenomenal news for us geeks in hobby gaming to have someone who's got all the cred of hobby in big management of hobby gaming coming to lead now the biggest game company in the world, in physical game company. So I was really excited when I saw this news.
It's amazing. Obviously, we are super excited, and I think that the last 1 or 2 years a little bit spoiled us with when we are reporting about all these successes of Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast, the celebrities being open and transparent about loving Dungeons and Dragons. If we see this news 10 years ago, we would be literally fainting, seeing that WotC is doing so much revenue of Hasbro that the president of WotC becomes president of Hasbro. We are living in amazing times. We geeks are taking control over the world, and this is how it should be.
Absolutely. The next piece of news I thought, and by the way, the new president of Wizards of the Coast will be named in the next few weeks. So we're obviously going to report on that one too, to see who takes over at Wizards of the Coast. Next piece of news came out of nowhere. And literally I tried to find out more information about it, but could not. I didn't want to push too hard on this one because it's obviously under wraps. So without much notification, almost all the digital versions of Pandemic have been delisted, removed from the various platforms. The world of tabletop gaming has its share of digital adaptations. One of the most popular of these is the digital version of Pandemic board game published by Asmodee Digital. It has released on multiple game platforms, PC, smart devices, consoles. However, it appears that this particular adaptation of the board game is being delisted from the storefronts. According to a post on the board game subreddit, a user mentioned they wanted to re-download the smartphone version of Pandemic board game, but could not find it on the store. After reaching out to Asmodee Digital's customer service, they were issued the following statement. I'm not going to read it. It's a little long, but what it ended up to say is that they are taking Pandemic off the stores. And for now, only PC, App Store, and Google Play have been removed. Microsoft version will follow on January 31st, 2022, and then Nintendo Switch by the end of July 2022. So obviously they're waiting for contractual reasons to continue to remove these from all the platforms. Why this is happening, they have not said. They have not mentioned that they're have a new Pandemic digital in progress. Very, very, very strange. Ignacy, what do you think?
Yes, I learned about this yesterday. The same as you, I have no additional knowledge, nothing more than I saw in the internet. Super perplexing news, because Pandemic is a powerhouse for the company. The only thing that was coming to my mind is that some problem with negotiation with the contract with Matt Leacock, the designer of Pandemic. But I'm not saying it happened. I mean, this is just what I was thinking. Like, what is the reasoning? The reasoning is maybe they're losing the rights for the Pandemic. Obviously, that is a rather crazy thought, because knowing how Pandemic is selling well, I guess Matt Leacock is happy with Asmodee.
Yeah.
But like, what other reason could it be? So we have to wait for some official statement. As for now, one of the most popular apps out there removed without official press release from Asmodee for the reasons.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with your prediction that they're losing the Pandemic rights, because that's huge, and they would have found out about that way before, right? Like the sale and things like that. And I mean, this is a particularly big portion of the value of Asmodee. Pandemic is in the top 2-3 sellers. So I'm going to say that they are revamping the digital platform. That's simply my guess. And so they'll take a hit early on, if they take it off, they make no revenue from it, of course. And they're going to create a new edition of this, bigger, better, crazier, whatever the case may be. That's my guess, but I have no knowledge. I actually reached out to Matt Leacock to see if he would tell me anything, and he would not. Matt's a great guy, but this is something that he obviously had to keep very secret. The next thing, Ignacy, I don't know if you saw the news. This is all over the mainstream news, right? Yep. Did you see this one?
Yeah.
Microsoft announces $68.7 billion deal to acquire Activision Blizzard. Wow. So increases the digital gaming stake in the metaverse. Microsoft announced that it will acquire Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion. This comes out to $95 a share and is Microsoft's largest transaction ever. Microsoft continues its current path of conquest, gobbling up companies in the digital gaming space. In 2020, they announced the acquisition of Elder Scrolls game maker Bethesda Softworks. And this prospective purchase of Activision Blizzard is a clear sign that Microsoft sees digital gaming as one of the cornerstones of the emerging metaverse. The purchase of Activision Blizzard brings iconic franchises like Warcraft, Diablo, Overwatch, Call of Duty, and King Studios' Candy Crush under Microsoft's banner, and positions them as a leader in digital gaming as it expands further into the metaverse. So let's put this in perspective. Almost $70 billion. Let's just use a nice round term. We had Asmodee just valued at, because it was purchased for $3 billion. It's chump change compared to this thing. Microsoft, the third or fourth largest company in the world, with a market capitalization over $2 trillion, is diving more deeply into the game space, making it a cornerstone of their entire portfolio. Again, as Ignacy, you said a couple of seconds ago, it's like the geek culture and geek things are like taking over the world almost. This is the only thing that they're talking about on CNBC for 2 days, right? I watch a lot of CNBC. That's the biggest business television network. And they've been talking about this for days. Microsoft's last purchase was their biggest purchase, and that was $27 billion. And that was LinkedIn. I don't even know how they make money with LinkedIn, but tremendous news for geeks. Ignacy, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I like the piece that is, I think is super interesting here is that in 10 years, in 20 years, everyone will be playing video games. Like from your generation and from my generation, some of us play, and I have many friends who are not playing games because they are not geeks. But in my son generation, everyone is playing games. And for my daughter generation, everyone is playing video games. So when they are getting older and older and older, we are looking at the world in 20 years, that the whole planet will be playing video games. So as you mentioned in this press release, we are talking about the future of this planet Earth, that everyone will be playing video games. And that's why this video game industry is so important. And that's why Microsoft is easily deciding that to invest today to harvest much more in 10 or 20 years, because this is the future of this planet. My parents were not playing video games. In my generation, some of us play video games. My kids, everyone is playing.
Absolutely.
That's the future.
And they're kind of including this video games in general and they've said it specifically as part of this new metaverse concept that
that's the future. Yep.
Many of us will live online. Interesting, right? I mean, we do now. We already do. We're doing this online. People look at content, but more and more of this kind of stuff will be part of
the whole value of the
metaverse.
Video game industry will be just going higher and higher and higher. Right. This is no other way. So invest today to harvest in 10 years.
Yep, there you go. That's the news. Let's get over to strategy and tactics. All right, Bill L., who's Bill B.L. Cardman on The Geek. Hello, gentlemen. Love your podcast. A question for both of you. What is your most embarrassing gaming-related moment or incident during gaming, during interviews, etc.?
I recorded 40 episodes of History of Portal Games here in Poland, and it was called here in Poland like Ignacy roasting himself, because I was giving all the fun anecdotes from the past of the Portal games. I also recorded 2 or 3 episodes in English with the most stupid adventures I had in my professional life. And so there's a lot of content you can find on YouTube on Portal Games channel. When I was preparing for this podcast, the one very embarrassing moment I can mention is one of my first Gen Cons, if maybe even the first one, 2013. I was invited for the seminar with the game designers about the game design. I remember I was sitting next to Jeff Engelstein, and among the guests in this panel was Rob Daviau. I didn't know Rob Daviau, and the person who was running the seminar said who Rob Daviau is. So I'm hearing that he was working for 14 years at Hasbro, and you guys know how I appreciate Hasbro. And he was designing games like Risk and Clue DVD and Clue Harry Potter. So I'm thinking, we are here, serious designers, me, Ignacy, Jeff Engelstein, and then they are bringing some stupid dude from Hasbro. What a disgrace. And this is a super embarrassing moment, but then obviously Rob started talking about game design, and I had to immediately change my opinion about him. And of course, then we became industry friends. But I remember precisely myself being this cocky Ignacy looking at some stupid dude from Hasbro and thinking, why they brought the guy from Hasbro?
Which convention was this at?
It was Gen Con 2013.
Was I on that panel with you?
You might be.
Yeah.
You might be there.
Wasn't it me, Jeff, you, Davio?
It may be. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I was thinking, why Hasbro? What the hell? Why?
That's so funny. And you didn't know who he was at the time. That is hysterical. I'm pretty sure that's the one where we were all on that. And I was talking from the publishing side, and you guys are talking about design. And that is so funny. You'd never met him before, I'm gonna say I was thinking about it, and if anybody saw the Gen Con this year, this past Gen Con, the top 10 games with bad names, games with bad names that we did at Gen Con with the Dice Tower, right? Top 10 Dice Tower, top 10 at the Dice Tower live show. People did not particularly like my top 10. I tried to be funny, and I was funny. I made some funny stuff going on there, but I got fried during and after the whole thing. So I was kind of a little embarrassed. I was blushing a little bit and stuff. Like, there's this whole thing about 879 Vikings. We still use it as there's a game called 879 Vikings.
Yep.
It's 879 AD, but it doesn't say that on the box cover. Yeah. So I used it as like 879 Vikings. That's a very specific number. Why can't it be 900 Vikings? Why can't it be 880 Vikings? I was making a joke, but I said it was a dumb name because they could have put the AD or whatever you call some people call it different things now. It didn't go over well. And then I made a lot of fun about some German names, but go watch it. It mocks Bonacor quite a bit. Marcus Shepard, who's at Marcus Shepard, I remember you two mentioning that 2-player games don't sell as well. Did this change during the pandemic where many people are restricted to playing with their significant other? Ignacy, I don't think that there was a specific extra uptake. In fact, I think that the uptake during the pandemic and continuing sort of the meta on number of players is 1, solo. If you can make your game play solo, you're gonna have a bigger chance of selling that game because there's just so many gamers that can't get someone to the table during a pandemic. They do their game night, but they really want to play more, so they just grab a game and they play it solo. So have you seen any difference in 2-player games over the last year or two?
I don't know yet. I don't have a data. I absolutely confirm what you are saying, that there's a huge shift in the industry with the solo gaming. And for the 2-players game, it is not yet announced, but you are listening to this podcast to get some inside information. So yes, Portal Games will soon announce 2-player games. So we will see in upcoming months what are the sales. I confirm that back then, it was always better to release a game that works for 2, 3, and 4 than just for the 2. Because you can play 2 and 3 and 4, right. It is always better just 2. But we will experiment. We'll do 1 2-player game and see how it sells. But in general, I prefer to release the game 2 to 4 than only for 2.
Eric, who's at Chewy on the Geek, saw a follow-on about not making games that fit with your company lines. Have you thought about creating a new imprint for other types of games? Asmodee, Plan B, and even indie game studios do it. That would let you publish games that wouldn't fit in the Portal line. So this is specifically to you, Ignacy. Have you thought about creating a new, he called it imprint, and that's sort of what Asmodee calls things. I call it, brand, a new logo, and right? Have you ever thought about creating a new logo and putting just different things in that line?
We did it here in Poland for our family style games. We had it for 3 or 4 years, and last year we decided to shut it down and get back to regular releasing. And so now, even if you are releasing family game, it still has a Portal logo. So where we failed with this experiment was that Portal Games has a very strong reputation, is a very strong brand here in Poland, and promoting and creating and building reputation for the brand new brand, it was a ton of work. And and was not successful, and the retailers were confused. Is this Portal or is this new brand, and why this is different brand? And after 3 or 4 years of struggling, we said, okay, whatever, just put a regular Portal Games logo, and people immediately understand it is a great game. So yes, we tried it. It was not successful for us, and we will not do it again, either for Polish market or for American market. But I can clearly see that is tempting. That when you are racing a Neuroshima Hex about the fight, when you are racing Cried Havoc about the fight, when you are racing all these war games, and suddenly you have a family game, you see that it is not fitting too well. But creating a super new brand is very difficult.
It's not only very difficult, it confuses your customers a lot. And you need to almost, if you do it, you need to almost put a team in charge of that brand to really push that brand.
We built the whole separate Facebook page to run it. So as you mentioned, the different team, different assets, different Facebook posts, too much work.
Yep, there you go. Christian K, he's not asking us a question, but giving us a suggestion. He's at Mewmelman. He says, I would love to hear an episode where you make long-term predictions about the industry. For example, 5 or 10 years. Well, Christian, I can't predict what I'm having for lunch in about 2 hours from now. So 5 or 10 years, I crystal ball. It's so hard. Literally, it's so funny. I mean, there's like no relationship between the industry now and it was 10 years ago, right? I started Stronghold, started planning Stronghold in 2009. First game out in 2010. There's no relationship to what was going on then and what's going on now. And in fact, I'd say if we even let's go half of that, there's no relationship to the way things were in 2016 to the way they were in 2009 to the way they are in 2022. So it's really hard. I mean, Ignacy, do you think I mean, we could do one and we can make a quick little thing about doing that, but I think that we would be wildly wrong on every level because I would not have predicted what's going on now.
I fully agree that, and I find that one of my big strengths is the fact that the Portal Games evaluates and adjusts to the situation. Yep. I founded the company in 1999, so many years ago, and still in business, still being active, still coming up with the new ideas and adjusting to the changes in the industry. So as you said, this is a roller coaster. Every year something new happens, somebody comes with a new idea and the market changes. And we have this era of roll and rides, and we have this era of legacy games, and we have Asmodee Digital, and we have Asmodee buying everyone. And you have to navigate around all of this. We have no clue what will happen in 5 years. And all we can do is to try to survive and adjust and be interesting for the customers all the time.
Very, very true. Brian Rousey, who's at Mortician71, he says, I'm sure most people in the board game hobby have at least one game in mind that they would love to create. I've always said that also, that everyone's got a game inside them. Every gamer's got a game inside them, but it's getting it out. That's the problem, right? If someone that is just a hobby enthusiast should create a game that a publisher decides to pick up for publication, how is the creator paid? Is it a base payment for their IP? Is it a percentage of gross sales, a percentage of net sales? Also, in order to promote their creation at board game conventions, does the company or the individual pay for their transportation, room, et cetera, for these events? Short answer is every contract is different. Every contract is different. Normally, we talk about designers getting 5% of net revenue. That's the way that it usually works out. Obviously, noted designers, but you're not talking about those, get more. Noted designers could get flown around, to conventions and put up in hotels. It's not often with a brand new game and designer. Ignacy, anything more on that? We've talked obviously about royalties, for designers, and while it doesn't sound like much, it really is what the industry can do for designers, new designers especially.
This is exactly true. And with the young designers, the new designers, you should not expect that the publisher will bring you to Gen Con and pay your flight ticket and hotel and everything. if your name is Bruno Catala, you should expect that. That's for sure. But yes, young designers are very open to promote. They are very energetic. They want to come. So sometimes publisher just shares the cost of the
Sure.
situation. Everything is open for negotiation. We had a different situation both in S and in Gen Con with designers being at our booth, because it's always a great attraction for the customers, for the gamers, and also great the moment for the designer to meet their fans. So as Steven said, everything is open for negotiation. The bigger name in the industry, the better position for negotiation. But as Steven said, around 5% from each copy, and basically until you are Antoa, Bauza, and Bruno Catala, you go to Gen Con by car.
Oh, and by the way, if your game is a hit, that 5% will pay you a decent amount of money over time. It will. You'll do very well, and then the sky's the limit, right? When Alan Moon did Ticket to Ride, he probably had a 5% deal, and now he's kind of probably getting more. He's probably negotiated it and things like that. And, Asmodee would like to keep him very happy, and doesn't want to lose that contract. So you can't expect to get rich early. You can hopefully do something well as time goes on.
Let's give an example. So my first board game released in English was Witchcraft 2008, then 2009 is a Stronghold, then 2010 is a 51st State, then 2011 is a Pret-a-Porter, and then 2012 is Robinson Crusoe. So we are talking 4 years of work, every year releasing a game, and indeed 2012 Robinson Crusoe becomes a hit, and indeed I am brought to Gen Con by Z-Man Games, and I have a hotel from Z-Man Games, and I have my flight ticket from Z-Man Games. But it is 4 years of releasing games, being a growing designer, and at some point I made it. But it was not 2008. It was not yet 2009. It takes a lot of work to build the name, build reputation.
Very, very good. Exact example of your life right there. And of course, you were also the president of major publishers in Poland, and still you had a hit game. They brought you over, help promote the game, help teach the game and stuff like that, sign autographs and things. Ewan Lemons, who's at E1 Prime, he says, I love this. I love boring business questions, Stephen. Keep them alive. Can you get any financial information on board game companies like solvability? Not sure what that word means to him, or liquidity. In Belgium and many other European countries, all companies, big and small, are required to publicly publish their annual accounts. Let's talk about that in a second. It's interesting. If this would be the case for everyone would be able to better gauge the risk of backing a Kickstarter. I assume in the US, only publicly traded companies are required to do that. Correct. Is any other information publicly available, like the CEO or owner of a company? Okay, so the short answer is no on all accounts here, Ewan. A private company is exactly that, private. Not only do you not know how much they make, what their profitability is, you know nothing. If it's a publicly traded company, you have all kinds of stuff that you have to disclose. Who are the owners? Who are the management team? How much do they make? Even depending on they actually shows this on disclosure statements. They're called They're called 10Qs and 8Qs, 4Q. All of these different statements that they have to disclose during the year about everything that's going inside the company. But you cannot get this information. If your question is in regard to risk of a company for backing a Kickstarter, I would like to make this statement to you. Assume the company is a high-risk endeavor. Simple as that. Because if you take a look at the company and you see that you've never seen this name before, why would you think that it's not a high risk? If CMON does a Kickstarter, if Portal Games does a Kickstarter, if indie game studios do Kickstarters, and all of those companies do, you can strongly assume you're going to get delivered exactly what they said they will do. if Joe Games is doing a Kickstarter, be it their first or third or something, some small number, that's a high risk company because nobody knows them. Simple as that. Ignacy, anything else to add to that kind of commentary?
I just wanted to defend Joe Games, that sometimes it might not even be a problem that Joe Games doesn't want to deliver. It's just the changes in the industry, the problem with shipping, logistics, and we had a lot of stories last year when the creators had to inform the backers about the problem. They were asking them about the additional pledge because the market changed so much last year. So indeed, as Steven said, these smaller, younger publishers, without them understanding the whole process, without them understanding what are the traps, possible traps, there's a bigger risk, and this is just because they are inexperienced and they don't know where the trap is hidden.
And I didn't want to imply that Joe Games is not going to deliver, but as Ignacy just said, right? They are trapped, right? There are traps. And if you don't know the or if you simply in a changing market like what we have now with logistics and shipping, the global shipping crisis, you don't have the capital to deal with that. So
here's an example. Shipping costs in the past year grew super high, and we already charge for the shipping for Robinson Crusoe, and the portal games can afford paying more for shipping than we got from you. So I'm paying a little bit more dollars because the shipping is higher. The small publisher, Joe Games, might not have this capital to pay for you. The bigger companies, the ones that have experience and are in the market, can sometimes take the blow on themselves.
Right. And, you might not have made money on a given Kickstarter or even a given game because you had to ship it out of China at 10 times the cost that you thought, well, maybe not 10, but 5 times the cost you thought it might have been. So you get crushed. So you made very little on that game, and another company, like we keep saying, Joe Games could not absorb such cost and they couldn't deliver, or they're going to be like another 2 years until the prices come down. Hopefully they will again.
I just want to say that if there is a company, Jones Games, we are in trouble.
we are in trouble. Sorry about Joe Games or Joan Games or whatever we're saying. In the meantime, let's get over to play testing. Ignacy, we had a great question. We only had a few days for people to actually answer the question this time because of the way that we recorded the 2 podcasts so close to each other. But tell me about it. What was your question last week?
We were asking you how you discovered our podcast. And many of you said that you don't remember, but some of you remember. For instance, Josh Wazer said, once you hit 10 episodes and made it to the Dice Tower network, I started listening and went back and listened to the first 10 episodes. I was entertained by the Fox drama leading up to that as well. So Dice Tower network helps us being discovered. That's why we appreciate the network. That's why we, at least me, love Tom Vasel, and we are very, very proud to be part of this amazing family. The other question that I found interesting was from Sarah Reed. She said, honestly, I don't remember. Sometime mid last year, so she's a new listener to us, I got interested in board game podcast again for something to listen to my walks. I asked on Twitter for recommendations. Most likely someone linked to your podcast and I subscribed. So Sarah, welcome to the family. We are very, very happy you are listening to us. You have 200 episodes to catch up, so don't hesitate listening to the older episodes. And John said, I started back when you started. I think it was in Origins Con booklet at the back with both your pictures and the tagline, too many consonants meets too many vowels. It was a great tagline. And we had a special social media asset. It was beginning of the podcast. It was cool.
Very, very cool. So let me see. I selected Christian K. Oh, that's the same guy that we just read his question. Oh, that's funny. I didn't do that on purpose. Muelman. I think it was advertised in the Dice Tower somewhere back when you started in 2015. Happy listener ever since. Well, thank you, Christian.
Tom was doing an ad for us.
Maybe
that's unusual.
I think, it's funny. I think that they used to, at the end of their podcast, they would mention a few of the ones that are on the network to help them out, the same way we help out, right? Dice Tower and the Kickstarter and stuff like that. So yeah, well, look at that. So we got
network. We appreciate you.
Okay, little anecdote here. Tom, I don't know, I might have said this on the podcast, but I think it's still one of the funniest things. When I told Tom that I was starting a podcast and I said, I know that I need 10 episodes to be on the network. I said, I know that's your thing. So, but I want to be considered for the network. He goes, you'll never get to 10 episodes. He said, you'll never get to 10 episodes, Bonacor, thinking that, of course, I don't have the wherewithal, just the drive to make it happen. But we've loved doing it ever since we started. We really have. So, I mean, it takes some time. 224 in your face, Tom. The ever increasingly wrong Tom Vassell. There he is. What was my next one that I picked here? Jesper Ron, who's Afferberg. I listened to the Ludology podcast back when Jeff Engelstein and Ryan Sturm were the hosts. They were the first hosts. Every time they wanted to talk about the board game industry, they invited Steven on the show. And guess what? I just recorded the latest annual predictions episode, the annual state of the game industry episode on Ludology. I've done it every year since then. They keep inviting me back, and now it's Gil Hova. He now manages it, and he's got new hosts. He's got Sen Fong Lim and Erica Borges. I don't know how to pronounce her name. And so we just did it this week. So you're going to be hearing that podcast very, very soon. Every year, State of the Game Industry on Ludology podcast, the #2 podcast after hours. Every time we talked about the board game industry, they invited Steven on the show. And on one of the Ludology's annual roundup, Steven talked about his own podcast he was doing with this talented but also Slavic guy called Ignacy. Now I really don't listen to the Ludology podcast anymore, but I listen to your great podcast every Wednesday afternoon while preparing for the next day. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. And then I have Gabriel Perez. I found you after I found the Dice Tower, the Secret Cabal, and you guys. December 2016. And I think that's great that, those are to me, the older school podcasts. They've been around forever. I still love the Secret Cabal. It's really sad the Dice Tower is now closing down, Ignacy. I think you heard about that, right? They're stopping their podcast. Yep. So that's not going to be happening anymore. But there's still some great podcasts. Blue Peg, Pink Peg. The D6 generation is still going strong.
Dice Taking Names.
Dice Taking Names, which Ignacy sponsors. So all great stuff. So in the meantime, thank you for that. Now our question is my question to you guys for this week. Since we just did our predictions 2022, give us your predictions for 2022. Give us one or more predictions, whatever you'd like. Make them wild, crazy, or just wishful thinking, or make them something you really think will happen. So, Ignacy, we can't do it right now because we've already done ours. So we're just throwing this out there. We did our predictions. Well, what are your predictions? What do you think is going to happen? Maybe we'll judge you at the end of the year. So right now, as I say this, Ignacy is going to create a thread on Board Game Geek. Please go to our guild on Board Game Geek and find our play testing thread for this question and post your answer right there. In the meantime, let's get to final scoring. Thank you so much for listening. Help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts, or now watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. To ask us questions for our strategy and tactics segment, you must post them in the correct thread in our guild on Board Game Geek. To answer our question to you from our playtesting segment, also go to our guild on Board Game Geek and look for the thread with this episode's question. Board Games Insider has a Facebook page, so please like us on Facebook. Also on Facebook, please like Ignacy's page and Steven's page, which is /PortalGamesUS and /PodfatherGaming. Our websites, portalgamesus.com and podfathergaming.com. Please go there, sign up for the newsletters to get up-to-the-minute information on what's happening at Portal Games and with the Podfather. On social media, you can speak directly to Ignacy and Steven. On Twitter and Instagram, it's @PortalGamesUS and @PodfatherGaming. And on YouTube, The channel names are Portal Games Movies, Portal Games Gameplays, and The Podfather of Gaming. On TikTok, Ignacy is alone, and that's Portal Games US. We hope to see you at an upcoming convention in 2022. Dice Tower Cruise coming up, then Dice Tower West. Hope to see you. Board Games Insider is professionally edited by Matthew Jude from This Game is Broken podcast. If you'd like him to edit your podcast, please contact him on Twitter or email at thisgameisbrokenpodcast@gmail.com. Also, that great voice you hear doing the intro, outro, and in-between segments is that of Ray Greenlee. He can be contacted to do voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. So, Ignacy, I have something I want to mention here, if that's okay.
The floor is yours.
The floor is mine. So, Gloomhaven, right? I've always talked about my physical game that I played with Paula on Gloomhaven, and we actually put it aside for quite a while. We don't have a real game table. When it gets back, I'd like to do that again with her because we were really at a great point and we just didn't finish it. But what's going to happen starting soon, now that they've reached the stretch goal of $280,000 on the Kickstarter of the Dice Tower Kickstarter, Tom Vassell and I, with another friend, Rod Phelps, we're going to be playing Gloomhaven online. And it's going to become episodes. We're not going to do it live stream because, maybe they want some editing just to make it a little more flowy for everybody. But we're going to be doing it online and playing this so that you can watch us epically kill monsters and make fun of each other because of bad moves and things like that. We did the test of it just this past week. We did a test. And I was epically bad again at playing the character I was playing. I'm not going to tell you who it is yet, but it's going to be a lot of fun. The ribbing will be great, and Rod's a really personable, fun guy. So I think it's going to be great for everybody to watch that. So watch the episodes of Gloomhaven Online with Tom Vassell, Stephen Bonacore, and Rod Phelps coming probably in late February. I believe we'll start probably dropping them and do them, once a week or so. We're kind of committed to playing once a week. So we'll start dropping those things once a week, probably right after the cruise. That's a guess. So maybe late February, early March.
How many episodes do you aim?
Oh,
270?
No, I doubt it, because these things are going to go right. It's going to be 3 hours every time we get together. We're looking to do it on Sunday nights. We'll see, it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, this is going to be another great game thing that I can do like on a weekly basis and have some fun doing it. So
that's great.
Check it out. And again, go over to the Dice Tower Kickstarter, which is going on right now and will be going on for another week approximately after I finish this, and go pledge a few bucks to them. It's really worth the stuff that Tom is able to do, for all of us gamers.
Thank you for today.
Thank you all. Take care. Bye now.